We now welcome back CBS Sports NBA analyst John Gonzalez. John, Ant-Man, Batman, Superman, Wolves in 5 yet again. Minnesota putting together a complete game despite Anthony Edwards' 7 turnovers. They still come away with a decisive win, sending Golden State home. How was Minnesota able to get it done?
Yeah, 7 turnovers. They were all sloppy with the ball. It wasn't just Ant. Both teams were sloppy with the ball. He definitely was, though. But he also had a playoff career high 12 assists. Kind of a quiet scoring night for him when he only has 22 points, but he was really good distributing the ball. How did they win this series? How did they win tonight's game? You have to look at Julius Randle. He has been fantastic in the postseason. I'm somebody who was extremely critical of Julius Randle when they traded for him. It was for fiduciary reasons. I thought that he was sort of a black hole on offense, that it was an over dribbler. Ball goes in, ball doesn't come out. Well, after the All-Star break, he really changed how he played, and he has been excellent for them since then, being more of a distributor. Scores, obviously, when they need him to. He had 29 points tonight, but 8 and 5 rebounds and assists. He's really been a complete player for them. They were up 25 in this game. Yeah, it got a little dicey, a little squirrely in the fourth quarter where Steve Kerr went to that bench lineup, that bench unit where Moses Moody came off the bench, gave him a little bit of a boost. But on the whole, the Wolves really had control of this game. And, you know, it's really tough. If you're the Wolves, you're looking for offense. You're looking around without Steph Curry, and you're like, who's going to give us offense? Tonight they got a playoff career-high 28 points from Brandon Pajemski, but just not enough offense, not enough good players out there without Steph Curry. And, yeah, the Wolves were the better team. Wolves in 5.
Wolves in 5 indeed. Minnesota getting back to the conference finals for the 2nd year in a row, and they're doing it with the majority of the core of their squad from last season and with a healthy Chris Finch, who was hampered with a knee injury that limited his coaching last postseason. So what else about this Timberwolves team gives you confidence for their next round?
Yeah, I forgot about the Chris Finch injury. He's actually out there coaching. Yeah, I mean, look, they're just playing really good basketball right now, right? In the first round, everybody was on the Lakers, me included. They end up beating the Lakers in 5, and Ant is out in L.A. where I live, and he was crowing and talking about nobody believed in us, and that tends to be a cliche, but in this instance, it was absolutely true. Second round, not everybody was on Golden State. I actually picked the Wolves in this, but I picked them in 7 games, and they didn't need that many. And a lot of that obviously has to do with Steph Curry not being around. But the Wolves are playing, even with Steph Curry out there, I think that the Wolves would have won this series because the Wolves are playing really good, consistent basketball. All 5 starters in double figures tonight. Then off the bench, Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker have been fantastic for them. They're just a really good team at both ends of the floor. I have confidence in them because they've got redundancy on offense and defense. I mean, you saw that's a really good Golden State Warriors defensive team. Even without Steph Curry, obviously Steph isn't exactly a defensive stalwart, but the Wolves carved him up offensively, and then defensively they are really excellent at that end of the floor. So whoever they end up facing in the conference finals, their 2nd straight conference finals, Madeline, whether it's Oklahoma City or the Nuggets, those teams are going to be looking at the Wolves as a big-time challenge.
Absolutely. Minnesota heading to their 2nd straight conference finals. The Warriors heading home, though. Dubs dropping 4 straight playoff games for the first time under head coach Steve Kerr. And now Golden State entering yet another offseason with many of the typical questions about their aging core. But now they've also got a new superstar locked down for the next 2 years in Jimmy Butler. So, John, what should the Warriors' biggest offseason focus be?
Yeah, you're probably tinkering on the margins. I mean, your core of Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green and Steph Curry is your core. It's aging, no doubt about it. But the returns on what they looked like when they traded for Jimmy Butler were really positive, right? I mean, once they got Jimmy Butler, they became the #1 defense in the NBA. They were #1 in forcing turnovers, #1 in points off of turnovers. He unlocks so many things. The problem is when you don't have Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler helps Steph Curry out, but Steph Curry helps everybody out, right? So you're asking a lot of Jimmy Butler without Steph. So next year, ostensibly a healthy Jimmy Butler, a healthy Steph Curry, a healthy Draymond Green. Injuries can always pop up, but that's your core group, and you're going to keep that together. Now, they do have questions about Jonathan Kuminga, who was basically a DNP-CD for much of the playoffs until Steph Curry went down. Irony of ironies, Steph goes down. Jonathan Kuminga might have been their most consistent offensive player. In tonight's loss, he had 26 points. He looked pretty good. Maybe they dangle him in a trade because he really didn't fit into the Warriors' plans when Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph were out there because it creates some spacing issues. But that might be a player that they look to move on from as a restricted free agent. But on the whole, I would expect that it would just be tinkering on the margins for them.
Lots of questions remain for Golden State as they head into the offseason. And the Minnesota Timberwolves head into the Western Conference Finals. John Gonzalez, thanks as always for the insight. For more NBA coverage on a daily basis, join John Gonzalez, Bill Ryder, and guests as they attack the biggest storylines around the association on the Beyond the Arc podcast. Scan the QR code on your screen to watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.